Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the English Shooting live stream. Thank you so much for joining. If you're new, well, welcome. This is where we talk about all the past week's shooting news and topics, but don't be afraid to get involved. There is a chat section. You can pose questions, ask anything you like about shooting or otherwise, deep fried Mars bars or pizza crunches. We've got a few experts in the building. And have your opinions heard. If you agree with something, then say that you agree with it. Say why you agree with it. If you disagree with something, disagree with it, but say why you disagree with it. Let's get the conversation going, because between us all, we can probably come to a happy, sensible middle ground, because we're all adults and we can have an adult conversation. And of course, don't forget to hit that like button. It's right there. Doesn't matter if you're mobile, on a tablet, or on a computer. It takes literally a second. And if you've clicked onto this video and you watch it for more than 30 seconds, and you should be hitting that like button, or you should be going. So like or go off. There's your options. So what are we going to be talking about this evening? Well, I have a feeling we are going to be talking about this consultation for a very long time, and this week is going to be no different. Of course, there was this massive consultation launched last week by the Home Office. It's being hailed as the most important consultation for shooting sports and firearms ownership here in the UK. For the past 30 years, 35 years, I think BASC actually said. And the response from the shooting community and shooting organizations and associations has been very good so far, which is very promising to see. And BASC have released some guide suggested answers. So we're going to be having a quick look through to see what we think about BASC's suggested answers. As I've said last week, yes, I haven't had a chance to do it. What else is new? I will be doing a much more condensed and actual proper edited video on this consultation and what I would suggest you put down for it. Again, you can ignore that, you can take that on recommendation, or you can just copy it exactly what I end up saying. But BASC is a professional, so that with a straight face, professional organization. These people are paid full time. They've been working for the likes of Neighbours, they've worked in government, they've worked in police. BASC tend to have a reasonable idea of what they are doing, apart from when it comes to lead. We'll move on. But with consultations and the Keyham shooting and Plymouth and all of that, they have been very, very good. And they have been very, very good at holding firearms licensing to account over the past few years. This is an area that they are, I think, sort of well over achieving in. They are going out there and really not mincing their words, and again, holding them to task and challenging the government, challenging the Home Office, challenging firearms licensing departments, challenging the police when they need to. So this is something that I actually have a reasonable amount of trust in looking at their answers, and certainly taking on board what they are suggesting. We will be talking about other things as well this evening, including Dorset splitting up with Devon and Cornwall firearms licensing. I wonder why they've done that. There's been a very interesting article put out by the Express. It looks like the same sort of hit piece that we normally see about the number of firearms in the UK and the fact that there are 9-year-olds out there with certificates. Apart from the fact that they are so, I think, misguided and ill-informed about this, and have obviously they have such a obvious bias that they've completely missed themselves contradicting the entire article, which is quite funny. So I thought we would talk about that. And the gun control network is disappointed. Oh no. Anyway, in more positive news, there is a Glock LBP, or there's going to be more Glock LBPs coming to market very, very soon from Caliber Innovation. So we're going to take a little look at that. But anyway, the main article for this evening, let's jump straight into it. Now, again, I'm very, very impressed with the immediacy, the speed of which the likes of BASC, I think even the NRA, Countryside Alliance. I've seen so many different organizations really react quickly to this consultation. BASC have been notorious for dragging their feet and not shouting too much about important consultations. You know, we had the firearm safety consultation, and it was like there was nothing. And I think perhaps certain moaning has finally got them to go, oh, maybe these consultations where we actually have our chance to voice our own opinions and have our say, maybe we should be using these more. And when you go onto the front page of BASC's website, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Arian, I need to be able to move. I need to be able to move my screen over to the left-hand side. Anyway, let me know if how I can do that. I am at a loss. Anyway, when you drop onto BASC's main page now, uh, this is it. This is their landing page. This is their home page. They've put this absolute front and center, changing rules on gun ownership, action required, a call to action, front and center. It's not being hid. It's not obscure. You don't have to go to submenus. It is right there. They are using the opportunity to get you to join BASC, but you can go through straight away and learn about this consultation. It'll be interesting to see how long that stays there. So a little bit of background. Of course, it was the article that we were talking about last week was this. New firearms consultation is the most important in 35 years, says BASC, but this has obviously come out in the last few days. So you've got your sort of shoot from the hip, excuse the pun, quick fire answers, which is literally if you want. I'm Before even going through the questions, I'm going to give BASC enough credit and say, look, if you can't be asked to watch anything more, if you've literally just tuned in and you're beginning to lose the will to live, I can feel for you. I can relate. So, so if you're like just about to switch off, right, go and find the consultation. I'm going to. Oh yeah, I forgot to put the link in the last live stream, didn't I? Anyway, I'm trying, guys. I'm trying my best, honestly. Anyway, I'm going to put the link in now. So the link that is going to go in the chat. So if you're watching right this second, you're watching live, and literally you've got the attention span of a goldfish or a gnat, then click that link. And I would say that copying BASC's answers right here is better than not doing anything, right? I'm sure. Well, maybe there isn't, but I'm sure there's going to be answers here that personally I disagree with. I know there's probably people here that already will disagree with some of these. That's it. We've all got different opinions, and we can come to maybe a general consensus. But BASC isn't against shooting. I know with their history with lead, you can be forgiven for thinking that sometimes they may be batting for the other team, but I can't see, like, I'm just going to go out there and say it straight away. If you want to take the really lazy approach, I'd rather you just literally copy these answers, go to the link, and just do it now. Right. And I'm going to put the BASC link as well, just in case you don't want to be flicking between this this screen and the other. So there's all the information you need. Go and do it. Or you can wait for us to go through and sort of critique each answer, and we will and or even wait for the full video. But yes, so they've made this very easy. A very quick bit of background and the quick fire answers. What we're going to be looking at is actually the detailed answers from BASC. BASC's detailed guide to completing the survey. So they've got the actual full question that's asked in the consultation. So obviously we don't need to flip through it, and they've actually given their justification. So, I mean, again, I'm very quick. You all know I'm exceedingly quick to get really annoyed at BASC and be very vocal about BASC. But I have to say, this is the sort of transparency, the help, the guidance, the support, and the sort of leadership that we expect, or certainly I expect, from the largest shooting organization in the country. This is really promising to see. Yes, does it make up for things that they've done over the past few years? I don't know, but I tend to go on this flip flop of I see stuff like this and I'm like, this is worth paying 80 quid a year to support in my mind. Like it does redeem it somewhat. And not just be told this is what you should do, or not just be told here's a consultation, go and fill it out, but to give such detailed explanation. I say this, we're probably going to go through, I'm going to end up pulling my hair out at some of their answers. But so far, very impressed. Props to BASC on this already, although it is not too shabby. Sorry, I just got a message that I want to reply to right now. Sorry, stand by. Anyway, who I'm messaging does watch the stream occasionally, so you're going to know. Anyway, let's get back into it. And don't forget, hit that like button while you're here. So question 1, answer no. A new power, a new police power of entry and immediate seizure of firearms, shotguns, and ammunition when certificate holders are uncooperative with the police. Oh, we do have to be careful. Again, I'm not. You can forgive me from for being maybe sometimes a little bit, uneasy about trusting our national governing bodies and organizations. They aren't directly quoting the questions there. BASC are sort of rewriting the questions, which could change how their answers are perceived. So, like, if we go back to the actual consultation, do you consider that the police should be granted a specific power of entry without a warrant issued by a magistrate or sheriff? So we're going to have to take BASC's sort of summation of the question with a pinch of salt. This is going to get very complicated. Anyway, so let's just trust BASC for the moment. A new police power of entry, an immediate seizure of firearms, shotguns, and ammunition when the certificate holder are uncooperative with the police. The police already have adequate powers to enter a property where there is risk to life and to seize firearms and ammunition where there is a risk to public safety or the peace. They also have the power of immediate revocation of any certificate. BASC does not believe that simply because a person is licensed to possess firearms that this should deprive them of basic civil liberties. Whoa. Well, this is what we talked about last week. It is absolutely absurd, the suggestion that the police should be given special powers, that when there's a firearm certificate holder involved, that they can just kick in your door with pretty much no warning, no justification, just because they feel about it. They feel that they need to, right? Refusing to voluntarily surrender your firearms can be taken as justification alone to issue a revocation, right? A revocation then automatically gives them the power to go in and seize those firearms. Why do they need the entry of power without the formal process of a revocation? Just think about that for a second. They want to basically bypass your right to appeal. They want to bypass your right to be able to object to a revocation by not even going for a revocation in the first place, busting down your door and taking your firearms with no mechanisms in place to formally appeal against that action, against that decision. That is basically what they're asking. And BASC has called it loud and clear: deprive people of basic civil liberties. This is exactly what this new power would do. It would allow any police force to kick in the door of a firearms owner whenever they felt like it, without any justification or recourse. So 100% no. So completely aligned with BASC on that one. Mandatory prohibition, the prohibition from possessing firearms by person. So what was the question? Um, Share this tab. Do you consider that the prohibition on possessing firearms should be changed from one that is based solely on length of a custodial sentence following conviction to one based more on the nature of the offence? So BASC is saying no on this one. So the prohibition from possessing firearms by a person with serious custodial sentences has been enshrined in law since the Firearms Act 1920. It is a concept that has served public safety well. Accordingly, prohibition should not only apply where allegations of wrongdoing has resulted in a conviction. No, prohibition should only apply where allegations of wrongdoing have resulted in a conviction. That does not stop a chief officer from declining to issue a certificate if the nature of an offence discloses any risk to public safety. So this is very interesting. This was one of the questions that I could go either way, to be honest. Whilst this has been enshrined in law since the 1920s, that is over 100 years ago, right? I know I'm stating the obvious there, but a lot has changed within 100 years. I don't think it's necessarily, just because we've had this law for 100 years doesn't bona fide that law that it's good, right? It could mean actually that it's massively outdated. And what the Home Office's sort of justification or reasoning for asking this question was that crime has changed, the way sentences are issued has changed. We hear about in the news about lenient sentences for certain crimes, and public outcry sometimes that serious crime actually goes relatively unpunished. And the way that we punish people has changed. We didn't have, community service, back then. We didn't have the other non sort of custodial punishments that we do now. And I think there could be a little bit of a misnomer. It could be slightly misleading, solely going on the length of somebody's sentence, if they have been convicted, if they've end up in prison. Because as we were talking about last week, you could have somebody that's got a 3-year sentence for not paying their taxes, you could have somebody who's been in prison for a couple of months for GBH. It's like gross bodily harm. So you could have a violent crime that doesn't meet the threshold of being a prohibited person, but then you have somebody that it's a white collar crime, it's a non-violent crime, a victimless crime, whatever. Uh, but they're suddenly a prohibited person for not paying their taxes. Like sort of, I know there's going to be much better examples. So it is a little bit, I think, out of kilter. So giving more weight to the type of crime, maybe with the length of sentence, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. However, BASC's justification here of no, here we go. Bring that up. BASC's justification there of just because it's been here since 1920, I don't think really is a good rebuttal, is a really good justification. The concept that has served public safety well, has it? Like, that's a big statement. How is that? Where's the proof? Where's the statistics on that? And it is true. That does not stop a chief officer from declining to issue a certificate if the nature of an offence discloses any risk to the public. So, the just purely the allegation of an offence can be used to refuse a certificate. So really it's sort of a little bit pointless, because the chief of police has the mechanism to be able to it has the mechanism to use other information about the offence to decline the certificate already, but maybe making it a little bit more clear could, so maybe changing the guidance or changing the law, more changing the guidance, I think, to say, you know, yes, the law is if you've had a custodial sentence over 3 months, then you become a prohibited person for 5 years. If it's a custodial sentence for over 3 years, I think you're a prohibited person for life. And maybe add on there and go, however, the chief of police may take into account other circumstances around the crime to refuse a certificate. So yeah, again, I'm not too strongly. I don't think no is a wrong answer or is a bad answer. I just don't like BASC's sort of defense of it. So again, this I could go for either yes or no. At the end of the day, we're talking about people that have committed crime. We're talking about people that have ended up in prison. I don't think there's many people out there that is going to be hugely defending of anybody that's ended up in prison, then coming out and owning firearms. You know, you've been shown to be untrustworthy. You've been shown to be able to break the law. Anyway, moving on. Length of a certificate before renewal required. Now, this question is pretty simple. Won't even flick back. It's basically asking, should we reduce the time between renewal? Should we keep it the same, or should we increase it? Now, of course, what do we want? We want less work within the firearms licensing department. Yes, more than 5 years, it is a very long time. A lot can change in 5 years, a lot can change in 8 years, 10 years, whatever they may increase it to, but a lot can happen in a month, a lot can happen in 6 months. So you're never going to have the best time frame, and you're always going to have people that have massive changes in their circumstances and their life that you're not going to catch within your renewal period. What would be better overall, as we've discussed, is continuous monitoring, actually giving the resource to firearms licensing to identify changes in people's behavior, identify potential risks, rather than just relying on this renewal period. So I would say I agree with this. I think overall it is a smart move and will yield more effective and efficient firearms licensing departments. BASC, the medical marker, is viewed as the prerequisite for the extension of the certificate life, as it links with the police database to provide 24/7, 365 monitoring of a certificate holder. When a marker has been added, the life of a certificate becomes an irrelevance. That is a very, very good point. Very well made. Of course, this does require statutory enforcement of GPs and medical professionals to actually use the marker system. But this is a good point, and I think a good justification. The continuous monitoring. Well, if you have a health marker on somebody's, they're on their file, if they start suffering from severe, mental health issues or even severe physical physical health issues, then it's going to get flagged, and it's not necessarily going to get caught in a renewal, but it's going to flag up straight away to the police. So continuous monitoring, continuous assessment, this is what I think BASC are going to be pushing for, and I don't necessarily disagree with them. So I am on them with that, and I like their reasoning behind it. Do you consider that people applying for shotgun certificates should provide to referees? An interesting one. This again, one I wasn't too passionate about either way. I think the whole referee system at the moment is a sort of little bit pointless. So what's the point of making it to? And it's added work, it's added admin, and actually how effective is it? So I probably would lean with BASC on this one. For a no. One referee for a shotgun certificate application was deemed sufficient as recently as 2013. This was 10 years ago, BASC. Like, you're saying that like it was yesterday. Nothing in the subsequent decade has occurred to justify any increase. Consequently, this recommendation cannot be said to be evidence-led on that basis if it fails BASC's Keyham test, because it would not have prevented the Plymouth killings. Again, actually, that latter point is very, very good. This is all in response of what has happened to Keyham. At Keyham, would have an extra referee have prevented Keyham? No, it would have. It wouldn't it wouldn't have. Would an extra referee, even for a firearms certificate, would 3 referees have prevented any of the mass shooting? Would 10 referees have, prevented any of the shootings that we've seen here in the UK? I don't think they would have. So I think that's, that is the Keyham test right now. So yeah, again, I don't disagree with no on that one. Any referee to be a person of standing in the community. Now, I did take on board last week. There was a lot of people saying, look, it's very easy to say, oh, yeah, that's no big deal, because you can get your solicitor, you can get, somebody at the civil service or whatever to support you. And a lot of you did make the point that, you didn't know anybody that would be deemed somebody of high standing within the community or within society. So yeah, not everybody knows a solicitor that they can go and ask them for a reference. Not everybody knows a civil servant, a doctor, GP, whatever. And it would put up an extra barrier. So let's see what BASC's justification is. So BASC says no as well. Again, personally, I wasn't too bothered either way. I can see benefits of there being, a person of good standing within the community, because they're going to be incredibly risk averse. They've got a lot more to lose. But would that have prevented any of these shootings? Probably not. It would just prevent a lot of people getting certificates because they don't know a person that meets this definition of, a person of standing. So Bass says this was discounted in 1998 in favor of anybody of good character who had known the applicant for 2 years. No evidence has been adduced to justify its reinstitution. The 2023 statutory guidance requires a referee to have known the applicant for the most recent 2 years and to have had a reasonable degree of contact with him/her in that time. This is more important than a person's standing in the community. This was a point that we did touch upon, that actually how well somebody knows you, how well they're able to demonstrate to the police how much they know you, and how much of a good sort of character reference they would be is, I think BASC is actually bang on with this one. You could have a solicitor that's met you once in the last 2 years, and they could say, yeah, he was all right for the one time that I met him. What does that actually mean? I've said this before. Connors was previously one of my references, but he because he became an RFD, he wasn't able to be a reference, so I had to find somebody else. And for me, Connors is perhaps one of the best people to be a reference for me, because I probably see him more than I see my own family, or in some weeks I see him more than I see my own wife. So he's going to know me a hell of a lot. You can't use your wife, obviously. You can't use family members. So somebody that you work with every single day, that's sees you inside and outside of work, that if they're willing to go, yeah, this guy, I've seen this guy in pretty much every situation, inside, outside of work, at the weekends, abroad, at home, whatever, they're going to be able to give a very good reference to the police. So yeah, I think in the interest of not presenting more barriers or creating more barriers to applying, no, and again, I think BASC is bang on the money with that justification. So yeah, so far so good. Do you consider that referees should be able to demonstrate a good knowledge of the applicant's circumstances relevant to their suitability to possess a firearm or shotgun? Yes, as we were just saying. If the person doesn't know you, then what good is their reference? This is a sensible proposal. Without it, a reference is useless. So again, good. We are very well in agreement. Oh, leave blank. Do you consider that the application form should provide a checklist for referees and require a written declaration to the effect that they have disclosed all relevant facts? The question does not allow a yes or no answer. Reference checklist. BASC recommends response. Yes, this is a sensible proposal. Referee declaration. BASC recommends response. No, this is neither evidence-led nor proportionate. Interesting. I mean, to be honest, all relevant facts. Uh, to be honest, I don't know why. Uh, okay, it doesn't pass the Keyham test. BASC saying it's not evidence based, but surely it goes without saying that the reference you want the reference to be on the hook in some way. You know, again, what weight does a reference have if they don't have something to lose? Now, within our law, there's nothing currently that would be able to penalize a reference or a referee for, you know, not disclosing something or giving somebody a positive reference when they know they're unsuitable. Of course, you know, lying to the police. You know, it's not even like obstruction of justice, is it? I don't know what law you would be breaking by giving a false fraud, maybe. Um, but you know, this to the fact that they've disclosed all relevant facts. But I still think you need. I think there is personally. I think there's some benefit in giving some weight to the reference decision, to cement it a little bit more, to make it a little bit, yeah, to make it a little bit more. What's the word? Um, the gravity around it, yeah, more weight. You know, it's the reference really needs to understand like this isn't just, you know, just some little form you're filling out. You are giving the police a good or bad, or you know, effectively you are going to be the decider to the police in giving this person a firearm certificate or shotgun certificate, um, declaring that you have, you know, just sort of puts the seriousness, the gravitas to it. Um, I think this is maybe a little bit nitpicky. Um, like it's just like with most things. You know, when you're filling out your tax return or, you know, company accounts, or what was the most recent one that I did? Well, you normally see it that oh, it's the VAT return. You know, every quarter VAT return. I declare that this information, to the best of my knowledge, is correct. Right? That doesn't really put you on the hook for much, because if there's something wrong in there, you can, well, that wasn't to the best of my knowledge, or to the best of my knowledge, it was correct. I didn't understand, or whatever. You know, ignorance is never really a defense, but you know, to the best of, maybe just something like that. To the best of my knowledge, I am declaring, disclosing all the relevant facts, and giving a reference to the best of my knowledge. I don't see what the harm in that is. Just to really, I don't know, pronounce the seriousness of what somebody is doing. So, I mean, you could leave blank. I don't think really it's the end of the world to leave it blank. But personally, I'd be leaning towards yes on this, if I was to answer it myself. Do you consider that the statutory guidance should include more detailed guidance for the police on the information they should be looking for to elicit from referees? And Baskov said no. Now, I said yes. I'm pretty sure I said yes to this. I think more prescription, more guidance is better, right? Because the more guidance there is, the more prescription there is, then there's less interpretation, right? That should, in theory, create more consistency across the board with our firearms licensing departments. So why does BAS say no? Section 2.21, 2.24 of the statutory guidance are comprehensive regarding the criteria for a referee. It states that the police should inform any referee they contact of the application, and that they may inquire about any matter relating to the applicant's suitability to possess firearms. That covers the eventuality. No evidence has been adduced to suggest that the statutory guidance is deficient. Oh, fuck off. We all know the statutory guidance is deficient. That's the issue. Okay, right. We can maybe it's not deficient in this one particular point, but come on, BASC. Like the statutory guidance is ridiculously deficient, right? The fact that the guidance is so open to interpretation, the fact that the guidance is read in 50 different ways by 50 different forces, and we have such inconsistency up and down the country due to the poor guidance that is out there. Like, no, Vesk. The the statutory guidance is deficient. I'm sorry. There needs to be, and personally, I feel quite strongly about this. There needs to be more guidance. There needs to be more prescription. It needs to be spelled out so that there is no interpretation. Now, be careful what you wish for, because if they spell it out, they might spell it out in a really disastrously bad way. But that's what BASC should be there for, is to go, no. If you're going to spell it out, it needs to be spelled out correctly. It needs to be spelled out proportionately. Yeah, I'm sorry. The guidance should be any opportunity we have to make the guidance more detailed, I think we should take. And there, of course, there is the risk they make it more detailed in a really damaging way, but we need better guidance. We need more prescription in my opinion. Do you consider that the police should look at the circumstances when individuals change referees between application and renewal and subsequent renewals? BASC has said no. 5 years is a relatively long term during which the relationship between a certificate holder and referee may change due to death, relocation, estrangement, or lack of contact. Simply because a referee has changed does not indicate that that the renewing certificate holder has something to hide and is being duplicitous. In any case, BASC is only aware of a handful of cases since 1998 where referees have found to be unsuitable by the police. Such circumstances are easily remedied by proposing another suitable referee. They sound to be talking a bit cross purposes there. In any case, BASC is only aware of a handful of cases since 1998 where referees have been found to be unsuitable by police. Such circumstances are easily remedied by proposing. Okay, is there something I'm missing there? It's like we're not talking about referees being unsuitable. We're talking about people changing referees because they've had a disagreement. They've, there's a story there that may give the suggestion that somebody is unsuitable. And yes, whilst the majority of people changing a referee will have nothing to hide, or there's nothing that unscrupulous that they are trying to hide, the majority of firearm certificate holders don't go out there and kill people. So you're trying to find those very, 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 very rare situations where somebody is unsuitable, where somebody is posing a danger to. So again, I don't necessarily like. Do we want more hoops to jump through? Do we want more questions to ask? No. Is like the selfish answer, but I think there is something to potentially be yielded here. If you're, and again, it could, yeah, there are loads of really benign reasons why your references would change. So that's really easy to answer. Why haven't you got Jim Bob as a reference? Well, poor old Jim Bob died. Why haven't you got so and so as a reference? Well, because I haven't spoken to him for 5 years. We've moved away. He's moved away. They've moved away. Whatever. But there could be, just asking the question could be enough. Oh, why haven't you got so and so as a reference anymore? Well, we don't speak anymore. Well, okay. Why don't you speak? Well, we had a bit of a falling out. Okay. Why do you have a falling out? Yeah, actually, Yeah, I ended up going around and beating 7 bells of shit out of him one evening because of, it's okay. There's a really, is that ever going to happen? Probably not. But again, I don't think this is necessarily one to get your knickers in a twist. I don't necessarily agree with no. I think there's actually a lot of justification for doing yes on this, but we're saying yes to bring in more hoops to jump through. And as we know, it's not about the application process that is insufficient. It's about actually firearms licensing implementation of the law as it stands. So, is it needed? No. Is it going to really hurt us? No. So, could be yes. Yeah, we'll move on. Referees to be provided with a unique reference number to facilitate contact with the police. BASC said no. Now, last week, I would be in favor. I said I would be in favor of this because your referee wants to validate that they are talking to somebody official. If they're gonna start talking about personal matters about you, you want to be sure that they're talking to the right person, right? They don't want to just, some random stranger. So tell me about Callum. Yeah, all right, I'll tell you everything you want to know, like, bank account details, sort code. This proposal appears to be a solution to a problem that does not exist. No evidence has been adduced to show that contacting the police to express concerns about the certificate holder is or has ever been problematic, as a level of revocations is a tiny percentage of the certificates on issue. The provision of a URN for referee/police communication is wholly disproportionate. Okay, for that specific reason of having a unique reference number in terms of the referee in being able to get hold of the police to say, actually, this guy's a nutter, I agreed to be his reference, but now I completely disagree with that. Yes, the police are very, if somebody phones up and goes, I've got an issue with Shady Bob, well, okay, give me Shady Bob's first and last name and we're going to know who he is, right? The police are very good. You give somebody their first name, last name, and like an age and maybe an address, the police should be able to find you pretty quickly. So yeah, it is a little bit disproportionate and not needed. However, I think there are great benefits in in this world of identity theft, in this world of scammers and people being duped online and duped on the phone. Having that reassurance that the police are able to actually say back to you your unique reference number for you to be able to validate that you are talking to the right person, I think that has a lot of value, and maybe BASC isn't seeing that. Yeah, the point they're making, I think, is a good point, and for that point alone, no, it's not needed. I think there's some other unforeseen benefits in having that unique reference number. And okay, so they make it even easier. This isn't an issue, but actually having it doesn't create an issue. So if there are benefits to have, let's have it. Q11 answer no. Do you consider that the statutory guidance should be expanded and made more prescriptive in relation to suitability checks? BASC's experience is that the current 2023 statutory guidance is rarely followed. Oh no, BASC. Oh no. Rather than adding to it, the Home Office should ensure that chief officers abide by the terms of statutory guidance and provide written reasons when they deviate from it. Jim Slater, thank you very much for your support. Hi, I like guns and I like the channel. You seem knowledgeable. Does bipolar disorder disqualify you from getting an SGC or an FAC? We'll pause on this very quickly. Seeing as you are supporting the channel, Jim, I will try and answer your question as best as possible. Unfortunately, this is how long is a piece of string question. Does bipolar disorder automatically disqualify you from getting an SGC or an FAC? No. There are people that I know that have firearm certificates or shotgun certificates that have mental health issues, minor mental health issues. I mean, like I'm talking like minor depression, minor anxiety, right? They're not a threat to themselves. They're not a threat to anybody else. They've never shown that they're a threat. It's not a severe case. So there is no risk. There's no risk to the public. It's managed, right? People can be on antidepressants and still have firearm certificates, but it needs to be taken on a case-by-case basis. Unfortunately, how the police have changed this process is that previously, your GP would like sign off on your certificate, right? The GP, having your GP supporting your application was a big tick, and the police would take that, would give that a lot of weight. All the GP does now is tell the police if there are any instances of mental or physical health issues that would make that they should be aware of in your application. And weirdly, the police have appointed themselves as medical experts to make that medical judgment. So it really, like previously, my answer to this was always go and talk to your GP. If your GP is going to support your application, then you've got absolutely nothing to worry about. The police are going to listen to the medical expert in giving their medical, their medical opinion or their expert opinion, whether you're fit or unfit. The best thing you can do now is still maybe talk to your GP and just say, in your medical opinion, would you think that I pose a do you think I would pose a risk to the public with firearms? And you could attach a letter. You go even one step further and still get that sort of positive recommendation from your GP. That is going to have some weight, because if the police turn up in court, because you've appealed their refusal, and you go, hang on a minute, my medical professional says I'm absolutely fine. Why do what's your medical background? It's going to make them look a little bit silly. So that may help, or just find out who your FEO is likely to be and have a conversation with them and just say, what's the severity, how long you've had it, what treatment you're on, and just get a reasonable idea from them and say, look, is there anything that I can do if you think it is going to be an issue? Is there anything that I can do in preparation? So, we should be able to have these very constructive back and forth relationships with our firearms licensing departments. They should advise you, and it shouldn't be an automatic no. Of course, if you have a severe bipolar disorder and it's quite obvious that you would pose a risk to yourself or other people, it's going to be a no. But it's very rarely that cut and dry. So the simple answer is no. That's not going to disqualify you from being able to apply. The long, convoluted answer is that it really depends on your personal circumstances. But the worst they're ever going to say is no, right? And this is what I've said to so many people before. People get it for whatever reasons. They got arrested because they were drunk and disorderly 10 years ago. They've got depression or anxiety, and people seem to talk, oh, there's no point me applying because they're going to say no. Well, if you take that approach, you've got 100% chance of never getting a firearm certificate, right? If you go and talk to the police and put yourself out there, could only be a 1% that you're going to get a yes, but that is infinitely more. You're infinitely more likely to get the certificate by actually going through the application to begin with. So if you've convinced yourself it's going to be a no, well, you've literally got nothing to lose in applying, right? So I hope that gives some guidance. I hope that gives sort of some support, and hopefully you can you can talk to your firearms licensing departments, and hopefully it's not an issue for you in your in your application. Susan Carter, your GP no longer knows you and will only reply factually from the medical records. They will, in terms of the sheet that they have the GP form that they have to fill in. It will be just tick boxes. However, you can ask them to go further. You can ask for their medical opinion based on your records, whether anything on your records would, in their opinion, make you unsuitable. Um, you can go a little bit further on that. Can't you just use Medicert? So many GPs are anti-gun. Absolutely. If you have any issues with your GP, they're anti-gun, they're biased, and they're not going to give a fair and accurate. They refuse outright, or they're not going to give something that's fair and accurate. Then you can go to a company like Shotgun Medicals or Medicert. Anyway, back to the question, because this is a bit of a juicy one, really. So back to, do you consider that the statutory guidance should be expanded or be made more prescriptive? Yeah, BASC. Just because the guidance isn't followed, I don't disagree at all. The Home Office should ensure that chief officers abide by the terms of the statutory guidance and provide written reasons when they deviate from it. 100%, right? I am in full, complete agreement. I'm actually like, apart from this, rather than adding to it, I am in complete agreement with BASC on this one, right? On this statement, the statutory guidance is rarely followed. It's also open to massive interpretation, which is why it's not followed to the letter, because people read it differently and deviate from it. And yes, the chief officers should be abiding by it, and they should be held to account when they deviate from it. But that's all very well and good, but that's not, just because they don't follow it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be updated. It shouldn't be expanded on. In my mind, again, more prescription, more guidance, and more sort of just A to Z, step by step, of how you give somebody a certificate would do us the world of good. It would give us more consistency. It would remove the ability for firearms licensing departments to interpret things. And this is where we have such a big problem. This is where I have a lot of the issues nowadays with my firearms licensing department. They think one thing, I know another. Right? It's like, no, this is what the law says. Yeah, but we think this. But I'm sorry, it's not about what you think, right? It's about what you can prove and what it says in law. Jim Slater, glad I could be of help. Again, thank you very much for your support on the channel, and again, all the best for your for hopefully your future application. This is one of the issues. Like, there's so much interpretation that if you get a firearms licensing, like I've literally seen it. It's one of the things that's going on at the moment. The police will interpret the law or the guidance differently depending on the person they're dealing with. Right? I've seen it. Some people, it's like, oh yeah, well that's lawful. They can do that. And then when somebody else goes to do it, it's like, no, we don't like that. We don't like that. And actually, we are interpreting the law now as this, so you can't do it. It's like, yeah, but they're doing it. Yeah, but you're breaking the law. Well, so they're breaking the law. No. They're not breaking the law. Why? Because they're doing it very slightly differently to you. They're doing it exactly the same. Yeah, but we're interpreting that they're doing it differently. I had it with Hampshire, where I haven't disclosed all of this, and I'm getting to the point now where I literally don't give a shit. So Hampshire wanted to investigate me over the use of the Mars rifle. I think I've talked about this on the channel, because they thought that when the offensive weapons bill received royal assent, that suddenly all Mars, I think this is, might be getting the timelines confused, but it was like, as soon as the offensive weapons bill received royal assent, all Mars and lever release guns was now Section 5, despite the fact that that they were still on Section 1 certificates. So explain that one. And they were like, anybody, i.e. me, because we all know everybody went to the range and everybody was trying to get the last shots out of their Mars and lever releases and letting their friends shoot it, which they were lawfully able to do. and they were saying, oh, to basically be in possession to touch one of those, it's Section 5, and therefore you're breaking the law. The Home Office, literally in black and white, put the front, like on the Home Office webpage, put out a statement saying basically, whilst it's received royal assent, there needs to be a period for us to be able to collect these guns. So from it receiving a royal assent, it is an offence to manufacture, transfer, or sell one of these guns, but it is not an offence to be in possession of, to shoot, to use, because they are still technically Section 1. And I just literally showed that to him. No, no, we interpret that differently. It it literally, it says it. No, it's pretty prescriptive there. No, we interpret that differently. Needless to say, I didn't end up in prison. So yeah, I think myself and, oh yes, the Home Office were right on that one. But this is the issue. You need more prescription. Having these gray areas within law, having these areas that are undefined within our statutory guidance, is dangerous. It leads, at the best, you end up with inconsistency. At the worst case, you end up with it being abused, right? And that is what we have seen and what we are seeing, and why it's very scary when you see things like, oh, we want the powers to be able to kick in your door without actually going through a formal revocation, right? It's going to be abused, right? It's going to be used as a weapon against us. So I'm sorry, I strongly disagree with this. We need more guidance, and we need more prescription within that guidance. So for me, this is a hard yes. Again, be careful what you wish for, because they may be very prescriptive in a very damaging way. But at the moment, leaving the police to have such autonomy with their interpretation is proving exceedingly dangerous. Right, now on to question 12. Do you consider that the balance of probability test is the correct test to apply in the statutory guidance to information about personal suitability to hold a certificate? Now, this was something that I somebody actually got in contact. Thank you. You know who you are, and said and explained to me what where the probabilities test, balance of probability test, come in. Obviously, in normal law, it's beyond all reasonable doubt. So if there is any doubt, then you are to find somebody not guilty. Basically, the balance of probabilities basically gives a little bit more leeway with that. You don't have to be 100% certain. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be beyond all reasonable doubt. The balance of probability has to be that it's likely to happen, or it was likely, or it did likely happen. So it does give them a bit more leeway. Now, personally, I would like to see, like, understanding it like that. I would like to see it. I would like to see it changed. Personally, I don't like this airy fairy. Well, we think you could be a danger to the public. Like, I think, if we're going to apply the law fairly and consistently, you can't be treating people as criminal when you can't treat them guilty before they're proved innocent, right? People are innocent until proven guilty, and one of the biggest issues we have as firearms owners, as shooters, is that we're automatically on the back foot. The bar is sort of much lower for the police when it comes to firearms owners, than it is for proving criminality in normal law. So yes, I get that it could then make it very, very hard to to prevent some people that would be unsuitable, like people that are hanging around with gangs that are not, but that are hanging around with very unscrupulous people, that there's a lot of rumor and all of this around. But it's like it's sort of very um binary, isn't it? You either give the police to give a bit of judgment in those circumstances that somebody is unsuitable but you can't prove it, which is always going to end up being extended to people that are suitable, but the police just don't like, and then are able to say they're unsuitable. Or you have it, no, you are able, anybody is able to get a firearms certificate as long as you are a suitable person, as long as you have not committed a crime, and you will be treated innocent until you're proven guilty. I would be in favor of it heading towards that. BASC obviously agrees that it's still the correct way. The fact that it's been used since 1920s, again, maybe it's time for review. But the balance of probability test has been used in firearms licensing since the Firearms Act 1920 and has stood the test of time. As firearms licensing is not subject to criminal law, it is appropriate that the civil law test is applied to what is an administrative matter. No evidence has been adduced to show that the balance of probabilities test is in any way deficient. Okay, so BASC is coming at it that, firearms licensing is not subject to criminal law. Okay, so as it is not subject to criminal law, it's appropriate that the civil law test is applied. Okay, I agree with that. But maybe there's a bigger question here. Should firearms licensing be subject to criminal law? Right? Would that be beneficial? Would that give us more rights? Would that give us more protection, and make it easier for genuine people to be able to go out there and get certificates? But if we're going to keep it civil law, then yes, the balance of probability test is the correct way to apply it. Of course, they're not asking to go to the subject of criminal law, so I guess that point is a bit moot. So again, overall, agree with BASC. Let's keep it with the balance of probabilities, and maybe push for the criminal law bit a bit later. Do you consider that neurodevelopmental disorders should be added to the list of relevant medical conditions in the statutory guidance? BASC is saying no on this one. Again, I could think it either way, right? I could think it, if somebody has, severe autism, we were going through the list. There were a number of developmental disorders that could affect somebody's sort of ability to decipher right and wrong, and their ability to be safe and competent with a firearm. These conditions cover a spectrum of severity, and each case should be treated on its own merits. Okay, so BASC is trying to protect us here. I sort of see what they're doing by just putting all neurodevelopmental disorders. Basically, this is the danger. If you're dyslexic, well, that's a neurodevelopmental disorder. Therefore, we can start refusing dyslexics. But again, what they're asking for here is for the guidance to be more prescriptive. Put neurodevelopmental disorders in there, but be prescriptive about it. Tell the chief of police that you can't start discriminating against the dyslexics because they want their CAF. Like, you just need more guidance on this. Very vague. So perhaps as a more general thing, yeah, no, because it could be open to abuse. But actually, I don't disagree with some of those disorders having to be disclosed, or being put there in the guidance. Maybe it is safer on that one just to say no. Do you consider that GP's engagement with firearms licensing process should be mandatory? Yes, 100%. I think we're all in agreement with this. And B, this question relates to GPs being mandated to place a marker on a certificate holder's medical record rather than mandating GPs to be involved in the verification process on applicants. Well, yes, even more so, 100%. Yes, that's the very least that they can be doing. As firearms licensing is principally undertaken for public safety reasons, it follows that GPs placing of a marker on medical records should be mandatory. Too many GPs are risking public safety by opting out on the spurious grounds of conscientious objection. You cannot I hate reading. You cannot validly object in conscience to measures to improve public safety. GPs have a moral duty to participate, and if they are unwilling to do so voluntarily, they should be compelled. Wow. You will play my game. This you want to play a game, Ray? This duplicates a system that applies to medical conditions and driving. I don't disagree with BASC at all on that one. I think that's a slam dunk. Yes, make them do it. If they don't want to do it, just fucking make them do it. Do you consider that interim medical checks should be made on licensed firearms holders between the grant of a certificate and any application to renew? No, the continuous monitoring of certificate holders by all means of a marker on a medical record provides a better safeguard for public safety than interim medical checks. Any medical check must be intelligence led, with the marker as an early warning system, a reminder from the marker that the patient had access to firearms when they presented with a condition, giving rise to concern about their suitability to possess a firearm, would be far more effective than random, untargeted interim checks. Yeah, I agree with that. If you've got the marker, if something then arises, then they can address it. Just willy-nilly random checks, another barrier. So I'll agree with BASC on that one. Do you consider that the digital marker for use by GPs on the medical records of licensed firearms holders should be visible to other health professionals? Yes. Now this one I think is dangerous. It just depends which health professionals. The marker needs to be visible to any health professional who needs to see a patient's medical records. That said, this must be conducted on a need to see basis in order not to prejudice a certificate holder's security by advertising that firearms are stored at their particular location. And also, the biggest point for me is that there's some medical health professionals that some certificate holders should be encouraged to go and see, right? If you're starting to have mental health issues, anxiety, depression, bipolar, whatever, right? The last thing you want is that person to close in, to go, well, I can't go to my GP, I can't go to a therapist, I can't go to a psychiatrist, I can't tell anybody because I'm going to lose my guns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here, I'm not going to get help, I'm not going to reach out, I'm not going to talk to any medical health professionals out of fear that they're going to see that I've got firearms and they're going to get them taken away, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to get worse, and I'm going to get worse, and I'm going to get worse. And then I'm going to get to a point where I do pose a danger to myself, I do pose a danger to the public, and I've gone completely under the radar, right? We do not want that. So I don't think it should be all medical health professionals. It's a very, very interesting one when it comes to firearms owners and certificate holders going and seeking help for mental health issues. On one hand, medical health professionals, there's a client privilege, confidential, what do they call it? Client, a patient. You know what I'm trying to say? Patient confidentiality clauses, right? A doctor can't just go, any medical health professional can't just willy-nilly go out there and start talking about your medical background, you as a person, right? Unless they fear that there is an imminent danger to life, either yours or somebody else's. Now, this could be twisted. If you've got a doctor that is, or a medical health professional that is very anti-gun, well, somebody with any level of mental health issue with a firearm to them could be deemed as imminent danger to life, and could give that sort of anti-gun medical health professional the justification to go out there and get your licenses removed. So I think you need to tread very, very carefully with this. Maybe it should just be your GP or certain medical health professionals that's able to have access to this marker. And then you have maybe a fail-safe system. Like at the end of the day, if you go and see a psychiatrist, you see a therapist or whatever, they're going to know who you are, right? So if they do have fears, your genuine fears or concerns that you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else, well, they have the ability to go and contact the police. They have the ability to go and contact your GP, and then your GP is able to see that marker. I think it's a very dangerous game, making it just so obvious that all medical health professionals that could have access to your your medical file see this marker. It could make people that need to go and get help even more scared to go and get it, which could have much more disastrous consequences. So it's a very, very difficult one. But I think personally, um, I don't think this thing about, being, yes, that's a good point, but I would just still like there to be the avenue that certificate holders can know that they can go and seek mental health support, without fear of losing their certificates, right? Because the main thing with mental health is going and getting help. You don't want to put anybody off in any circumstances from going and getting help. So I would probably lean to say no, on that one, just because they haven't been very prescriptive in which, I don't think it should be any health professional, right? Because what is a health professional? Is that a medical secretary? Is that is that doctors? Is that a nurse? Is that, there's a whole host of people there that I really don't think have any business potentially knowing about this. So I think no. Um, if they want to say all doctors, all of, certain medical health professionals of certain standing, certain level, then maybe yes. But as it's written, for me personally, that's a no. Do you consider there should be more mental health advice and support for licensed firearms holders through advice leaflets and other support? Yes, again, for all the reasons we've just said. Certificate holders must be confident that they can seek help. BASC, but see your previous question. Certificate holders must be confident, must be confident that they can seek help for mental health problems without automatically being deprived of their certificates. The marker needs to be visible to any health professional who needs to see a patient's medical records. BASC, come on. That's contradictory, literally question to question. Like, wholeheartedly agree with you on this. BASC assisted with the excellent Police Scotland leaflet on the subject, and we welcome in its extension elsewhere in the UK. I wholeheartedly agree with this, and BASC's statement there. It just sort of makes this previous one a bit more ridiculous. Do you consider a specific phone line should be introduced in addition to the services already available to report concerns about licensed firearms holders? We said no last week. BASC says no. There are already numerous phone lines for alerting the police to threats to public safety. Of course, this is exactly what we said. 999. Everyone knows that, and most people know 101 as well. So people can, and then you've got Crime Stoppers. So, right. No, we do not need that line. Completely in agreement with BASC there. Answer, leave blank. This is a biased proposal based on a yes to answer 18. Okay, well, let's go and actually have a look what question. So this is how in principle should any specific phone line be funded? Okay, yes. So I see what BASC is saying there. It is basically assuming that you've said yes to that question. So yeah, leave that one blank. That for me, this is a hard no. So leave that one blank. Question 20, leave blank. Raising awareness of avenues available to raise concerns about a certificate holder. In BASC experience, the public is perfectly aware of how to raise any concerns about a certificate holder to the police. But what is the actual question? Do you consider that it would be better to raise awareness of existing avenues to raise concerns about licensed firearms holders than create a new phone line? So so they've asked this weirdly, haven't they? So do you consider it would be better to raise awareness Because if you say no to this, then you're saying, no, it's better to have a phone line. If you say yes to this, then you're saying that you should be raising more awareness. So, okay, I get, like, at the end of the day, no, we shouldn't be raising awareness to the public because, you know, BASC is right. You know, everybody knows that they can phone 999 or 101. So yes, leave blank. I agree with that one. Question 21, free text box. This is an opportunity to call for the following points, not included in the consultation. Oh, yes. Oh yes, BASC. Sorry, you have instantly undone anything that I'm not happy with this one point. Finally, somebody other than myself. I have been saying this for years, absolute years. I have been saying this, and I don't think this should be at a general level. This should be on an individual level. If you apply for a firearm certificate, bearing in mind they're going to put the fees up to 250 quid, right? If they're going to put the fees up to deliver a proper service, if they don't deliver that service, there should be penalties, right? And the best way to do it is financial. It should be like for every month past the 3-month service deliverable, you get 50 quid back, right? Okay, yeah, you'd prefer them to take the 200. Let's say it's 250 quid, right? You'd prefer to give the 250 quid and have it within 3 months, right? But the silver lining is if they take 8 months, you get all your money back and they still have to give you your certificates. This 100%, bravo BASC. As far as I'm aware, they are the first organization or association or any sort of body that has gone out there and actually said this. Hammy H also fines for not following guidance correctly, and they should personally have to pay them, not the taxpayer. 100%. Agree with that as well. This is left field from BASC, if I'm going to be completely honest. I was not expecting this, but I've been saying this for so long, and it actually makes me feel a little bit warm and fuzzy inside to see BASC calling for this. I hope they are successful. Sound moderators to be removed from licensing regime. Everyone agrees that they should be removed. So 100%, yeah, I'm with that. His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary advice on changes to firearms licensing to be mandatory rather than recommendations. I can't remember what the advice was. Oh, to firearms licensing. Yes. Yeah. You need accountability. A creation of a centralized office to control police standards and performance in firearms licensing. 100%. Yeah, agree that firearms law to be codified and consolidated. Yes, we need simplification, consolidation, and we need it easier. So yeah, I think those are all top points from BASC. Bravo on those. 100, like that, financial penalties imposed on chief officers who fail to run efficient firearms licensing units. Oh, 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 yes, absolutely. At this point, you know, if it was like a penalty for every month past the 3-month, you know, expected, I'd hate to see the sort of check that Hampshire's going to have to write me. They're going to have to weigh that shit if they bring this in. Oh, the back payment to Callum alone is going to bankrupt me. It's like that. That would yes. That needs to happen. Financial penalties for not doing their job and delivering the service that we're paying for. I'm very happy now. I mean, BASC have said some really stupid stuff within their answers. Like, don't get me wrong, and I disagree strongly on some of their answers. It sort of just makes up for it that they want to push for financial penalties. Oh, I have no desire to rant about BASC for once. This is brilliant. Um, I might even go and join BASC. That's how happy I am with them right now. I might finally go and join them again. Um, Brilliant. Um, it's not going to last long. Don't worry. Give it a week. I'll be unhappy with them again. They'll start talking about lead. Um, Tom D. Um, as far as I know, NRA is also planning to release guidance on how to respond to this consultation. I wonder if the UK PSA has any plans to do so, or maybe CPSA 2. Uh, I have it on reasonably good authority that the UK PSA will be putting out information and guidance to its members very very soon. We all the emails have been already going around council. Everybody agrees within council of the UK PSA that this is really important. That we need to be putting out posts. We need to be putting out email. It's not really my remit within the association to be doing that. So I'm focusing on the financials, but the people that it is the remit, they are aware of it, and they will be putting something out. And there's from the discussions that have been had recently, there's a lot of very very positive, good stuff that's going on behind the scenes. The UK PSA actually is gathering a much better representation. It is being given a much bigger representation within these top level discussions at Felwig, at the BSSC, with the Home Office, and in my mind, we've got our representative that's working with this. I'm not going to say too much because I don't know how much is sort of public knowledge of it, but we have the right person representing us in my mind. Somebody that is incredibly knowledgeable about firearms law and the history of it, incredibly passionate, and will not take any shit from the Home Office or the government on ridiculous legislation changes. So I'm very 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 happy with how that's going on. But in terms of, yes, the UK PSA, there will be something coming out to its members very very soon. It'll be very interesting to see how the NRA's guidance potentially differs from BASC, or even how the UK PSA's guidance differs from BASC. Um, you can see that Callum has suddenly fallen in love with BASC. It doesn't take much. Just anything to penalize firearms licensing departments just gets me rock hard. Yes. How can BASC undo all of my rage in just one bullet point? um, moving on. Anyway, we do have some other points that we were going to discuss, rather than me just swooning on BASC at the moment. Another BASC article. This is more of like a little bit of an update of the things that are the consequences of what happened in Plymouth. So we've got. Let me just hide that comment. So BASC meets with Dorset PCC on firearms licensing. So Devon and Cornwall and Dorset were all one firearms licensing department. I wonder why Dorset suddenly wants to break away from Devon and Cornwall. Uh, the decision by Dorset Police to separate their firearms licensing authority from Devon and Cornwall Police was as a result of a survey undertaken last year in partnership with BASC of certificate holders in the country. Oh, come off it. Like, seriously, like, are you going to tell me that with a straight face? No, it's not. It has nothing to do with it. It might have a small thing to do with the survey, right? It has everything to do with Devon and Cornwall drop the ball massively, and Dorset do not want to get tarred with the same brush. They do not want to go through what Devon and Cornwall are going through and are going to continue going through. As a result of BASC survey. Oh, so it had nothing to do with the fact that Devon and Cornwall gave someone who was mental a shotgun certificate, took it away, and then gave it back to him, and then he ended up going and killing 5 people. Nothing to do with that at all. No, you sure? Fuck, do they really think we're this stupid? Yes, BASC survey. Yes, BASC survey said that we shouldn't be associated with Devon and Cornwall. We don't know why, but we'll listen to BASC. Yes. Now, but anyway, fair dues to Devon and Cornwall. It seems it seems positive. Following the meeting, Martin Parker said, "What was clear is that whilst public safety must be the primary concern, Dorset Police are committed to delivering good customer service in the future. In this context, BASC will assist the force in any way possible to help them achieve their goals. As ever, an open dialogue between police and the shooting community is critical for a working and sufficient service." 100% don't disagree with that. And yeah, I don't get me wrong, I fully understand why Dorset wants to separate, and fair dues that they are liaising with BASC. Let's have a little bit of positive news. You know how I like my long-barreled pistols, and you know how I like a bigger selection of long-barrel pistols out there. Well, there have been a couple previously of LBP Glock. So for those who are not aware, that are au fait with our firearms law, in the UK, we can't have a short arm, which is anything with a barrel under 12 inches or a total length under 24 inches, becomes a Section 5 firearm unless it's black powder or a muzzle loader or whatever. There's some exceptions there, but basically a normal handgun is Section 5. We can't get that for sporting purposes here within the UK, or it's very, 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 very hard to get it for sporting purposes. It's usually for military and police. So we have the long barrel pistol. So it has a 12-inch barrel. It has a rod coming out of the bottom of the grip, which makes it a long arm. Therefore, it's Section 1. Therefore, people can have it for sport more easily. And of course, people want a Glock. Glock is the most probably the most famous pistol in the world, and we have 1911 LBPs. We have Walther PPQ LBPs. We have effectively SIG Mosquito, although it's the GSG. God, what do they call it? Firefly. It's a GSD Firefly, but it's basically a SIG Mosquito, from what I understand. What else? We've got K22 LBP. There's growing good. Oh yeah, we've got a CZ LBP, although it's not called a C, it's called a KMR. Yeah, so we've got all these different types, but still no Glock. Now, I think Suffolk Rifle Company, before they closed down, I remember seeing it at Bisley one year. They were going to release a Glock. I don't know if any of those actually made it out in the wild. I know Cactus Arms, run by Ron Flint, who runs the Phoenix practical shooting ground, which is where I started practical shooting. I know he has them available. I remember seeing some of the very early prototypes and people. Anyway, to my knowledge, Caliber Innovations is the only company that has actually made them like freely available. And when I say freely available, I'm going to take a little bit of pinch of salt, because the Gen 1s that they brought out, I think there were 10. So not necessarily freely available, but there is the next generation, the CIP22 LBPs nearing release of the next batch, slide cut to optics for an optic ready for those who want to run a red dot. So I know the Caliber guys quite well, and I understand that basically I think the Gen 1 was like a proof of concept. Can we actually do this? Is there the market for it? There was the market for it because they all sold. And then they took what they learned from doing the Gen 1, and these are going to be a Gen 2. There's going to be a number of improvements that I'm aware of, and I'm sure they're going to be bringing them in much bigger batches than in 10s. So this will be technically the first off-the-shelf available Glock LBP that we will have here in the UK, which is absolutely fantastic news. Let's go switch back to just an absolutely ridiculous article. We've seen this so many times. It's just copy and paste. You know, the Express, new figures reveal 500,000 Brits have guns, including kids as young as 9. We've seen this argument and this hysteria around 9-year-olds owning guns. They're still going through the same processes that anybody else is. The police are making a very informed decision to give somebody a certificate as young as 9, and are actually very good reasons in order. You know, Lewis Hamilton, right? Lewis Hamilton started driving go-karts when he was like 5 or 6, right? To become the best in the world at something, to be able to become a world champion, you do need to start incredibly young, right? In anything, not just F1. So we're happy to strap a 5-year-old or 6-year-old onto a go-kart and let them hurtle around a racetrack at 80 mile an hour. But suddenly everybody loses their mind at the idea that a kid can, you know, have a gun license at 9. The reason that it's needed is because there's a number of ranges that require people to have certificates. So they can't go out and buy a gun, right? You still have to be 18 to go and buy a gun here in the UK, but it gives them lawful authority, or it gives them lawful authority to be in possession of that gun, so that they can actually go and shoot it. They can actually use it, and they can actually train. It's not that you've got 9-year-olds walking into gun shops and buying guns, which is how they very much want to paint it. And they go on this long thing. And the thing that really annoyed me was, first of all, the thing to first remember, right? A 20% increase over the past 20 years. So there's nearly 2 million guns, although I think the figures that we were looking at last week was that it's actually closer to like 2.2. But anyway, around 2 million legally owned firearms and shotguns in the country. A 20% increase over the past 20 years. The vast majority are registered it's like with the police in rural areas and are used for hunting, competitive shooting, and other sports, right? But then they make this stupid statement. So Dr. Ian Overton, Executive Director of Action on Armed Violence, told Express.co.uk the rise in firearms from around from 300,000 to 600,000 is notable, and we should always be vigilant about any increase in gun ownership. So it's like everything's plastered negatively. You know, this whole thing about, oh, kids as young as 9, woo, you know, and oh, it's a 20% increase, and we need to be vigilant. And this stupid statement, right? Theft from their rightful owners, however, is one of the main routes by which such weapons find their ways into hands of violent criminals, along being trafficked from abroad around alongside being trafficked from abroad. Around 900,000 guns are thought to be in circulation illegally. Wow. That is, yeah, that's significant, right? But this statement is bollocks, right? The NCA came out and said that the biggest source of illegal firearms in the UK is from being trafficked abroad, right? We know, you know, so we know it was something like 2,000 guns are lost, not necessarily stolen, but 2,000 guns are lost a year to by their owners. That doesn't automatically mean that they fall into the wrong hands. So you're saying 2,000 is accountable to the 900,000? Ridiculous, right? This is just a lie and a myth truth. So, you know, of course they start to tug on the heartstrings. They talked about, you know, this masked gunman killing this 9-year-old. They of course have to get Dunblane in. You know, so they're making it all very negative, very you know, anti, you know, oh, it's going up, we need to be vigilant, right? And then of course they talk about the US and mass shootings and murders, and then we see this, firearm fatality are falling. The number of fatal injuries caused by a firearm recorded by police in England and Wales per year. Right? So you're saying over the last 20 years, firearms ownership has increased 20%. But yet, by looking at it, fatalities have halved. So, what's the problem? Right? Whilst this statement is as stupid as what these guys are saying on the other side, by their weird logic, there's a correlation here: more guns, less fatalities. For every 20% increase in firearms ownership in the UK, we see a 50% reduction in firearm fatalities. That's the raw bloody certificate. That's the raw statistics there, right? And I know that is a complete ridiculous statement to make on that, but they've created this article to make, to ramp up hysteria, to get people, all scared. There's more guns out there, but in their own article, it doesn't take a genius to see. Well, hang on a minute, fatalities are falling, but guns have increased. Therefore, there's no correlation between more guns and more crime, right? It's nothing to do with, this article just in itself demonstrates there is no link between the amount of lawfully owned firearms and the amount of firearm offences, the amount of lawfully owned firearms and the number of firearm fatalities, right? Because the lawful guns are not the problem. It is the illegal guns. And whilst they try to paint this picture that it's the lawful guns falling into the wrong hands that's the biggest cause of illegally held firearms, that is utter bollocks, right? And it just angers me that they can be just so blatant when the statistics and the facts are right there in front of them, just literally right there in the article. There's no correlation here. What are we worried about? Anyway, just thought, when I saw that, I was like, oh, I need to rant about rant to somebody um, about that one, because it's just utterly ridiculous. A reminder, again, to fill in that consultation. I am literally, as soon as I get off this stream, I'm going to put the link in the comment section below. So anybody watching this afterwards, go and check out the comment section. It will be there. Also, I need to go back to last week's, because I said I was going to do it on last week's and I haven't. I will go back. I will go and do it. Let's have a quick look through what you guys have been saying. I know, again, I've been neglecting the chat section, but let's just have a look. I don't know, David, if you're still here, but I saw one of your questions earlier. Is Magload still doing a dealer day? Yeah, this was sort of snuck up on us. We said we were going to do a barbecue. Now, we're soon running out of summer. Ideally, we would probably wanted to have done it in, within the next few weeks, but we want to be able to give people maybe a little bit of heads up. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we could probably do the first weekend in August, which actually be potentially on my birthday. But then we've got the level 3 that weekend, level 3. So it's either the last weekend in August or the first weekend in August. Yeah, I will still really want to do the Maglo barbecue. Proper summer barbecue this time rather than leaving it to winter. We will have a look. We will see what we can do. Is 4 weeks enough notice for people? Probably not. We'll maybe do the end of August. But anyway, we do want to do it. I will talk it over with Connors tomorrow. GB Reloading, BASC and the NRA UK should be getting semi-autos and handguns back on Section 1. Yes, they should. Somebody needs to get Callum some AC for his office. Yes, they do, because I sit here every weekend and I sweat my balls off when it's when it's this hot. Frankie, Callum for PM. What a scary thought. Frankie, I'm going to watch this in the bath. Don't worry, I'll put some shorts on. Looking down at the. I'm looking down at the unemployed. Thank you very much. The preview window is interactable. Drag your camera window across. What? What do you mean? What do you mean about that? How do I don't know how you do that. Hold Alt F4. This is a Mac, Daniel. You should know this. I don't have an Alt. And I know how to get the picture in the picture. That's not the issue. I just want I want it to sit somewhere else rather than do anyway, I'll have a play with that at some point. Daniel's so unprofessional. Yes. Welcome to English Shooting. Hey guys, just hopped on. What are we talking about? We talked a lot. Neil Remy, there was 109 watching and only 4 likes. And we actually right now have the same amount of viewers and likes, but I'm sure there's people that are watching that haven't liked, so make sure you hit that like button. More firearms owners should run for political office. Yeah. Tom D, have you ever considered turning those live streams into a podcast? I don't always have time to listen to it live or spend 1 to 2 hours later watching on YouTube, but I have time on my daily commute. So I was having this thought today about it. First of all, I think podcasts probably work better when there's 2 people, and I don't know. Would there be too much lost because I'm referring to things on the screen? Although I tend to read a lot of things out, but if I show any images, then you're not going to see that. It wouldn't actually be that much effort to sort of just rip the audio and upload it as a podcast. So if people think like if it would be more useful if people are other people in the same boat where you don't always catch it live, or you can't always watch them 1-2 hours afterwards, then we could look at doing a podcast. And when I say we, I mean Arian, please. FEOs can ask those questions, but if it's legislated, then it needs to be evidence. It's unnecessary, and there are much more important things that need changing. That is true, but just because there's more important things that need changes doesn't mean that there should be change made where we can. Hammy H. My friend had a brain hemorrhage and they put a condition on his ticket that he couldn't shoot alone. They can be helpful in keeping you shooting sometimes. That's good to hear and very sensible. If somebody is likely to have an accident because of a condition, but it can be mitigated by having somebody to supervise, they can do that. Are you less likely to be allowed to get an FAC if you are newly 18? Well, as we've been literally talking about with the previous with the article, stop. There we go. Get rid of that. You can get an FAC at 9. You don't have. There's no. Oh, I can only get it when I turn 18. So it doesn't matter how long you've been 18. You can theoretically you can get a firearm or shotgun certificate. I know shotgun certificate, I think there might be another age. Anyway, you can apply for a certificate at 2. 2 is technically the minimum age because you have to have known your references for at least 2 years. That is the only sort of age restriction on certainly firearm certificate. There might be one on shotguns, but anyway, 18, you're absolutely fine. If you're 18 now, apply. I know plenty of 16, 17-year-olds that have applied for certificates and had no issue whatsoever. Looking forward to the short version of the video. So many people I know think it doesn't affect them. Even air gunners need to get on top of this because they're going to have an impact on everyone. Absolutely. I will be doing a short, concise video on this very, very soon. I've got another free weekend this weekend. Unfortunately, I'd much rather be competing in the level 3, but for some odd, strange reason, apparently I can't, as well as other paid up members and people with competition licenses that can legally take possession of a mini rifle. But I won't get too much into that because so far at the moment I'm feeling pretty okay. Um, Tom D, yep, I caught that. I hope you're still around. We will be. I will look into doing that, making them into podcasts. Does anyone does anyone from BASC play golf with Dorset's chief constable? Most likely. Mag update, please. Yes, I'm aware we sent out an update to everyone that had pre-orders about 8 weeks ago now, and we've reached that point. We're being delayed again by the injection molders. So the design is approved. There have been significant changes made, significant improvements as well. And I think I've already said this on the channel, which is the biggest silver lining. Yes, I know it's been far too long, and again, we can only just profusely apologize for the time that it's taken, and we are extraordinarily grateful for your patience, and the fact that people are willing to be so patient with us is actually very humbling in a way. And I've said it from sort of day one, like with a pre-order, if you've reached the point where you don't want to wait anymore, you want your money, we will refund. So if people have we're not just stealing people's money here. You want a refund, we'll give you a refund on it. Absolutely no questions asked. You just let us know. So where are we? So number of changes made. It's required a complete new injection molding tool. Previously, we were making iterative changes to the same mold. This is a complete change, and anybody that understands in injection molding, making a brand new injection molding tool is nor easy, nor quick, nor cheap. But that's where we're at. We were hoping that they were going to be able to produce the mold within, we were hoping sort of 4 to 6 weeks, and then start running it off, and we would have mags by now. They're still finishing off the changes to the mold. There's been a number. We finished our design, it went back to them, they were happy with it, and then they've come back and they've gone, well, actually, from what we did with the previous mold, it would be good if we change this. We can remove this issue or reduce this issue. And it was a bit more of a back and forth than we thought it was going to be. We thought it was pretty finalized, but everything is now approved. They are making the molds. We are waiting for them to give us the call. As soon as they say they're ready, as soon as the first ones are coming off the machine, we will be driving up there. It's up in Wales, so it's not exactly it's a whole day for us, but we did this last time. Last time they said, right, it's ready, let's go. And unfortunately, they'd pretty much lied to us. This is why we've had this beating our head against a brick wall. They know what we're after, right? And we went up there and they were like, here you go, here's the first one off the machine, literally as we pulled into the car park, and it was a pile of shit. And we were just like, sorry, you know what we're after. We know, what we're not going to accept, and you've just handed us everything. It was things like the base just wasn't going on. You basically had to hammer the base onto the last iteration of the magazines. So we said to them, that's not acceptable, right? Maybe a little bit of resistance. You don't want it just flinging off willy-nilly, but you shouldn't have to sit there fucking hammering it, right? So when we turn up there, they've said that they've fixed it. No, still having to beat it against the side of the table to get the base on. So words were had, and that is what has sparked this complete redesign with the mold. So yeah, just waiting for them to finish this new mold. the big silver lining is that there is stuff that we have done to this magazine that just never would have been included if there hadn't been this much time and dev and back and forth with them. So it's lighter, it's stronger. There's more features built into it. So it is the silver lining of waiting so long is you're going to end up getting a much better product. And of course, the bare minimum, it's going to function 100%. It was always going to function 100%. We're not going to deviate from that, but there's just a lot more that you're going to be getting from it. In terms of timescale, I'm not going to give any sort of timescale because it could be next week, it could be in 3 or 4 weeks, it could be another month or two, right? The company we are using is, we have seriously thought of going elsewhere. They know that we have seriously thought of going elsewhere. But I guess just like with a lot of people that have pre-ordered magazines, you're in too deep at this point to give up, and we are too in deep with this company. We've also spent a not small amount of money with them, and we would lose even more jumping ship to somewhere else and start the whole process again. So we are getting there. It is moving forward. We're very, very confident about what is going on. I think it will be fair to say, though, if they manage to screw this one up, we will be going somewhere else. There's just no that's it for us. But yeah, the magazines, the prototypes that we're making in house, we're printing in house, are just lovely. We've never seen them, like, even in an FDM print, we've not seen them run this well. And we were seriously contemplating just like, let's just start sending people FDM ones in the meantime. We're not going to. We would then send out the injection molded ones, but we're like, these FDM ones are working, like, and the previous designs, like the FDM just wasn't good enough for it. But we've built in tolerance in the right place. So anyway, we're learning. We know it's been far too long. We're hopeful it's going to be, yeah. It could be within the next 4 weeks that we get the first units. It could be a little longer, but we will be sending out a mail shot very soon just to keep people updated. It's just annoying. Like, we want to try and give an estimate. We want to try and give a time frame, and that's what we've tried to do so many times, and it just bites us in the ass because it's not all under our control. Anyway, I hope that's a good enough update. Andy, 6 months ago, they said they would be available in a couple of weeks. Yes, that's because at that time, that's the best information that we had. We knew that we were getting samples off of the run. We didn't expect the samples to be absolutely garbage. The design was not the issue. It was the inability for the injection molders to make straight parts. That was what we were seeing, is basically the two halves were doing that, which, okay, the magazine's screwed together, so you can pull them. You can pull them together, but then there's tension in those sides, and that's why we have two bags. Anybody can come down. If you want some magazines, we can give them to you, but they're all bananaed, right? And we're like, why did you continue running these off? Like, why? Sorry, like the reason we go to a specialist, we go to an injection molders, is because you know the molding process, right? And you're the ones that should be able to avoid you getting parts like that. That's not on us, right? We always tell you what we want, and it's your job to say, well, we can't do this, we can't do this, we have to do this to avoid certain features of injection molding. And this has been the headache all along. Now that we have a deep distrust of them, we've learned firsthand what needs to happen to avoid these issues, and that's where these big changes have been made in the design. So yeah, we've been there multiple times where we thought we were 2 weeks away from launch, and that's why we just don't want to give any timescales anymore. We're working on them. They will come. Paul, hey Callum, in month 8 under Stafford West Mids area, waiting for my FAC home visit. So how long does it take, mate? Great stream. Thanks for tuning in. appreciate the support. Unfortunately, it's a how long's piece of string question. They, some people, some counties, they can start interviewing you within a month, and you'll have your certificate within 2. It's a matter of weeks. It's disgusting that you've been waiting 8 months for an interview. It shouldn't be that long, but like nobody knows, unfortunately. The only thing that you could do is ask for an estimate of it, but usually you just get a generic, oh, it'll be another couple of weeks. That's the FAC or firearms licensing sort of modus operandi with that. So unfortunately, I can't be more help. It's I would hope that it's not going to be any longer than a year, but we have seen some places take over a year. Does Magload cut barrels and do rebarreling and stuff like that? Cutting barrels isn't an issue. We can get stuff reproofed. Recrowning isn't something, or we'd need to recrown if we cut. That would probably be down to Connors. I mean, we can pretty much do anything if we need to, but it's not a service that we regularly offer. We do know of a load of people that can do that. So if you wanted us to facilitate that, you can bring your gun to us, and we can have that done for you. Where there's a will, there's a way. And another question from yourself: would you ever start streaming on Twitch? Yes, I would. The thing with Restream and getting and using it is that Restream, you can actually simultaneously stream to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and all of that. So really, it's no extra effort to hook it all up. I just wanted to get more familiar with Restream first before I start making a fool of myself on a much wider platform, or more platforms. But there we go. We can try the podcast next week. Perfect. Good stuff. And I think we've got Martin Rudd, my son, put in for his SGC over a year ago. Can you guess which force? Do you happen to live on the South Coast? But yeah, anyway, on that note, guys, it is late. I am going to head off to my beddy buys. But thank you everyone for joining. I hope you've enjoyed the stream. I hope more importantly, you found it useful. Because that's this is the sort of stuff that I like to do is go through and sort of pick out really important topics and answers and questions and stuff like that, and maybe help you guys make a more informed decision on really important things like the consultation. Please fill it in. You have absolutely no choice now. If you watched last week's stream and even if you've just watched this week's stream, you have everything you need to be able to make an informed decision. It's literally going to take you 5 minutes, probably less than 5 minutes, to go through and enter all your answers on that consultation. I want to see tens of thousands. I want to see 100,000 minimum response on this consultation. But yeah, before you all go, make sure you've hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed for future videos. And of course, as always, guys, hope to see you soon.